Donkey Kong Country has been on my mind recently for absolutely no reason at all. I made a video almost 2 weeks ago where I talked about my first ever video game that I played, which happened to be the original Donkey Kong Country. And that video got me thinking about the second game in the franchise, which I didn't end up playing until years later after I had beaten the original Donkey Kong Country, for whatever reason. Probably because I was addicted to Mario Kart Double Dash and Super Mario Sunshine at the time, but that's besides the point. Donkey Kong Country has made quite the impression in its 30 years of life. It's been loved, it's been hated, it's been praised, it's been shamed, and has cemented its way into the Game Hall of Fame as a sequel to remember. So, in honor of DKC's 230th anniversary, I decided to make a video talking about Donkey Kong Country 2 and how it's one of my favorite sequel games I have ever played in my life. Does this game hold up in 2025? Or is it an outdated 30-year-old SNES game that, like Donkey Kong Country 1, is kept alive by nostalgia? Well, you know the drill at this point? Let's find out. Donkey Kong Country 2 was released on November 21st, 1995, and ever since then, it's become a staple in the Donkey Kong Country community, and is still to this day one of, if not the most popular Donkey Kong Country games out there. This stars Donkey Kong's spider monkey friend, Diddy Kong, with his girlfriend and one of my personal favorite Kongs who makes her debut in this game, Dixie Kong! How does this game start? Well, it starts a little bit differently than Donkey Kong Country 1. Instead of starting in a beautiful, lush jungle with the sounds of chirping everywhere from the local birds, we're starting in a freaking pirate ship with the noises of the ocean surrounding us. Well, that's certainly a change of pace compared to the original game. This game is certainly different already, and I am freaking loving it. Most game sequels usually just completely reuse their old formula, but that's not how Donkey Kong Country does it. No. Donkey Kong Country goes all out, whether we like it or not. The first level in this game does introduce you to Dixie Kong's helicopter hair mechanic, and basically repeats what Donkey Kong Country 1 did beforehand. Jump on enemies, avoid those enemies, snatch some bananas along the way, grab all of the Kong letters for a 1-up, and find the bonus rooms along the way. We can't forget about those bonus rooms. Avoid the pitfalls and get to the end of the level and jam out with either Diddy Kong or Dixie Kong. Not a whole lot has changed in that regard. This game is very, very sneaky in some ways too with its mechanics. Diddy Kong is the fastest of the Kongs. He can climb up ropes faster and run faster. Sure, Dixie Kong is a little bit slower, but she is certainly no slouch. Her gliding helicopter hair is a huge help to traversing across the levels, making some levels pretty dang easy if you get a good momentum going, which can be kind of tricky depending on which Kong you're using. But with the right Kong, and you know what you're doing after a few game overs, you'll get it in no time. Remember when I said in the last video that Donkey Kong Country 1 was top tier platforming greatness? Yeah, well, it's been dethroned in that arena. At least that's my unpopular opinion. Donkey Kong Country 2 took what the original DKC did very well, improved on it, and completely ran off into the sunset with it. The levels in this game are just as fun, even more challenging, and just overall an amazing thing to play. Now, am I saying DKC's 1's levels are bad? Absolutely not! They provided a pretty damn good foundation for what Donkey Kong Country 2 had to go off of. The levels are not only new, but some are improved off of old concepts, and it's truly amazing to see the original DNA wasn't just scrapped and thrown away like trash, but instead, they expanded on it and got a bit creative with new content as well, with levels like Haunted Hall, Hornet Hole, Toxic Tower, and many, many others. This game's levels definitely take much more precision and less hastiness than DKC 1's did, but that just made them all the more rewarding to get through. Some of the levels that genuinely ended up giving me a bit of a problem are Web Woods, a level where you play majority of it as Square the Spider, whose mechanics are a tiny bit hard to master. Slime Climb, a level where you climb up a shitmass against a rapidly rising tide with a Kong-hungry piranha below you slowly catching up. Toxic Tower, you have to play as the animal buddies and race against the clock as a giant pool of acid slowly rises up beneath you. But the first section is mad difficult. One wrong move and you're dead kind of thing. And there are a lot of others out there, trust me, these three are not the only hard ones in the game. But these three are the ones that stuck out the most in my head as some of them that genuinely just tripped me up a bit. But they were still enjoyable despite the difficulties they presented. Just like DKC1, DKC2 got a lot of praise for its graphics. Just like DKC's one outstanding graphics, they were considered groundbreaking back in the 90s, and for good reason. I will forever stress how amazing and just overall outstanding it was that these graphics were even remotely possible at the time. But for those of you who don't know why these graphics are so hyped up all the time, basically anything back in the 90s involving 2D sprite work was done by hand. But not Donkey Kong Country, no. The devs of Rareware decided to pull a big brain and make 3D models of their characters and convert them into the 2D sprites, which at the time was a bold choice considering anything like that was done purely by hand and without the help of a computer. Yeah, I see why it was kind of groundbreaking at the time. It made a huge leap in the terms of graphics for the SNES. Like, not a whole lot of games on the SNES were this smooth. Only DKC 1 and 2 were this smooth thanks to the 3D graphics origins that allowed the sprites to be pretty darn smooth, which really set this game and its predecessor apart from other games at the time. Another thing that I really enjoyed was the music. David Wise, the GOAT, the legend, has struck again! These tracks are just so amazing. Some of them are literally like ear candy. Just like DKC1's amazing tunes, these tunes are literally iconic at this point. They're amazing to listen to and are an overall bop, especially when you consider the fact these tunes were made in 1995. These music tracks fit so well in the game that it literally almost feels criminal how well they fit. I mean, hey, this soundtrack is called one of the best soundtracks of the 90s for a reason. David Wise really set the series apart from others due to how advanced this music was at the time. Nowadays in the 2020s it seems like a nothing burger, but back then, these were massive. And also to me, these soundtracks are my literal childhood. I will still to this day bop to these amazing tracks literally any chance that I get. Or these tracks like the original DKC traumatize you beyond belief. Look at you, Bramble levels. The music for these levels are amazing, but man oh man, those damn Bramble levels throw a wrench at your face and they have no sympathy for it either. One thing I loved about this game that the original game didn't do was the animal buddy levels. There are levels that are specifically dedicated to the animal buddies that are in the game, and you have to utilize the skills of said animal buddies to get through the level. In the original DKC, there were quite a few animal buddies. Those lovely creatures being Rambi the rhinoceros, Espresso the ostrich, Winky the frog, Ungard the swordfish, and Squawks the parrot. Although he's more of an assist animal buddy, but yeah, he still counts. The only ones that returned from DKC1 were Rambi the rhino and Squawks the parrot. The animal buddies introduced in this game were Ratley the rattlesnake, Squitter the spider, Quawks the parrot, Squawks' distant cousin who can't chuck out lug nuts, but he can pick up barrels and deck enemies in the face with them. Then there are two assist animal buddies, Clapper the seal and Glimmer the anglerfish. They don't really do much, but I still think they're adorable and worth noting. One of my favorite animal buddy levels in this game is easily Rattle Battle. In this level, you turn to Ratley the rattlesnake and have to bounce around this level all the way to the finish line. He's pretty fun to play as, especially while trying to figure out how to clear some of the sections of this stage. But one problem with Ratley is his controls are absolutely horrendous in some aspects. By that, I mean Ratley's super jump is it's just not good. There are some areas that nearly require this jump, but it can be tricky mainly because of the charge up Ratley has to do in order to launch himself into the air like a slinky snake. It doesn't give a good indicator of when it's a good time to release the button to launch Ratley. So that's fun! That has killed me more times than I care to remember or even to try to count. But other than that small, itsy-bitsy little hiccup, it's still a fun and enjoyable level. There are a handful of these levels. There are even some where you turn into the animal buddies halfway through the level and have to do the rest of said level or a portion of it as the animal buddy. So it can get a little bit tricky at times. It depends on the levels and what your game plan is, basically. One thing I will say this game is also known for is the secrets, or the bonus rooms, whatever you want to call them. They definitely have improved from the original game, but that doesn't mean they're easy peasy lemon squeezy to find either. There are so many secrets or bonus rooms that genuinely flew over my head the first time I played this game. And I gotta say, the devs at Rare really saw what they did for the original Donkey Kong Country and made it a bit harder in the sequel, but not unreasonably hard. If you look hard enough and you take your time, you should be able to find them all. With a bit of determination, grit, hard work, a little touch of craziness and insanity here and there, and a whole lot of stubbornness, you can do it. But seriously, all jokes aside, the secrets or bonus rooms here are 10 times more engaging for me than they were in the original DKC. Here you have parkour, climbing, stomp on enemies, and find the token minigames, which I enjoy a lot more than being just, shot out of barrels, running amok, gathering up bananas, trying to jump on claptraps 10 times without getting your foot bitten off, or just trying to spell out Kong or country or whatever the heck you have to spell. But yeah, this game definitely provided some much needed improvements to the original, and it also brought me a bit of an anger spike. I'll explain why in a bit. Now, what are some things that I like personally about this game? Well, I love how this game turned something originally so amazing and just turned it into something even more fabulous against all the odds. Which, when you're thinking about DKC 1, how do you make it more amazing? Somehow, DKC 2 just ended up doing it. That, and also introduced me to one of my all-time favorite Nintendo characters, but that's besides the point. Another thing that I really love about this game is that the devs at Rare really learned their lesson from the bosses in the previous game. That was the biggest lesson to learn, and they learned it. DKC 1's bosses were some of, if not the absolute worst or the easiest in the series, depending on how you look at it. But boy oh boy, DKC 2 definitely fixed it, and they more than definitely delivered. My personal favorite bosses were Cleaver, the World 2 boss, Creepy Crow, the World 5 boss, and Captain K. Rool, the final boss, obviously. These three bosses alone were so well done, and overall were a really nice change of pace, and was an amazing challenge compared to DKC 1's bosses. Whilst those bosses are iconic, they were not at all challenging unless you weren't giving a crap and not paying attention. Which, for me, was definitely the case in DKC 1. But yeah, DKC 2's bosses are challenging. Even the first boss had me a bit stumped when I first played the game. Then I eventually got it, then struggled on the next boss. Finally beat said boss, then moved on to the next area. Rinse and repeat for the rest of the game. That is something that Rare really needed to fix in DKC 1, and I am so glad to see they fixed it here in DKC 2. I am not going to spoil the Captain K. Rool boss fight, but I'm going to warn everybody here right now. It is one of the most brutal boss fights I have seen in a 2D platformer. This fight really tested my DKC knowledge and pushed it past its limit. But it's a really, really good fight, and I highly recommend everyone tries to beat it. But despite how much I love this game, I'll be the first one to admit that this game has a few issues. The first complaint here is definitely a me thing. I have a pretty big complaint that DKC2 got rid of the Animal Buddies minigames. In DKC1, once you collected 3 golden tokens of a specific animal buddy, you get to play as the animal buddy you got 3 tokens of and run amok gathering mini golden tokens. Collect 100 of them and you get a 1-up. Get multiple hundreds of them and you get multiple 1-ups. Oh boy, now that I say it, I see why it was taken out. DKC2 took this out because, let's be real here, as wonderful and amazing as this was, it really, really nerfed DKC1 to a point where it just got easy as heck to cheese the game. But that doesn't really change the fact that I really, really miss those little mini games. I wish they brought them back, but at the same time, I completely understand why they got removed. Another thing is the graphics. Like DKC1, they are sadly outdated thanks to development of time and games nowadays looking like they straight up jumped out of a Pixar film. Like I said before, these graphics were absolutely groundbreaking at the time back in the 90s. But that is sadly just not the case anymore. They're considered outdated or retro to the more kind. And that just breaks my dang heart that they're considered outdated by some. I love how these look. I'm a retro lover, yes, but these backgrounds, character sprites, and the entire game holds a very, very special place in my heart. So it's honestly sad to see these graphics just haven't aged well. Now, before you GBA port lovers rip me a new one, I'm gonna stress this again like I did last time. The GBA port fixed this to an extent because it looks kinda goofy. But it looks better than the original, I'll give it that. I need to play those again someday, I swear to goodness. The biggest thing that I have seen people complain about with this game is the difficulty spike. And you know what? Rightfully so! This game was not afraid to hand you a can of whoop ass and said, if you can't beat the level, that's not our problem, it's literally yours. Get good, mother trucker. Yeah, this game is something that I call the 90s rage bait. It was basically rage bait before rage bait was considered a thing in the 2010s or 2020s. Whenever that word was invented, I don't know. At least that's what I've heard a few people say. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this game did give me quite a bit of trouble because the difficulty spikes set in as early as World 2. World 1 was the warm-up before it chucked you into the pit yelling, "Good luck, buddy! Have fun dying a million times over and over and over again!" This game's damn difficulty just decides to jump around whenever it wanted to, so it made getting through some of these levels a horrific chore. But again, like DKC1, when you finally beat these levels, you are almost relieved to not have to play these levels again. Unless you get a game over and didn't remember to get a save point beforehand or completely forgot to save. I may or may not have done that on multiple occasions. Now, this one I'm absolutely positively certain is purely a me thing. But I'm gonna talk about it anyway because it's my video. In DKC2, there are these coins in the bonus areas. And if you complete the area, you get something known as a creme coin. These creme coins unlock something in the game known as the Lost World, aka the secret world for this game, whatever you want to call it. These creme coins were very, very, very irritating to get your hands on. And I mean very irritating to find. Plain and simple. If you miss that creme coin in the specific run in the level, you either have to die and try again, or you have to run through the rest of the level and go back and try to get it again. I had done that quite a few times in this game, and was utterly frustrated beyond belief. It is just so frustrating to have to go back again and again, backtrack through the levels of Doom, and find the bonus rooms again if you forget. Which, I get it. They're meant to be hard. But come on! I still hate gathering up those coins to this day. But the grind never stops, even when the creme coins give you the middle finger. Now, despite all of that being said, and the creme coin pandemonium that went down, and all the other things, which, sure, they were a little bit inconvenient and a bit annoying, but that doesn't change how much I freaking love this game. This game is easily one of my favorite games in the entire Donkey Kong franchise, and my favorite DKC game out there. No competition. I love that this game came around and improved off of the original, and it's honestly amazing. It's a game that has cemented itself into history and is easily one of the best sequels out there that I've ever played in my lifetime. Thanks DKC2 to introducing me to one of the best video games I ever played when I was a kiddo, and even now, I still love it. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end if you did, and if you want to see more videos like this one, be sure to let me know in the comments below. Don't worry, next video will not be a Donkey Kong Country video. I know y'all are probably burnt out on those by now, with all the DK Bonanza hype that is somehow still going on. I really need to finish that game. Anyway, huge thank you to my thumbnail artist Lucas, and yeah, I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Take care, guys, and have a wonderful day.